Okay, guys, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. And today is the 23rd of June, and it's about little after 7 in the morning. And our weather is warm again. It's going to probably be warm for a long time. 74 degrees, high of 90. That's not such a hot day, but see, it happens day after day after day, so the house gets hot and you got to run the AC in the peak of the day. So, what we're going to talk about today is I think everybody is sufficiently absorbed all the material about the attacks on the three nuclear facilities in Iran. And now what we need to do is analyze, if we're going to be wise, we have to analyze what's going to happen next with Iran and America predominantly, and what Iran's moves are, what their threats are, what they're likely to do, what they're not likely to do, and when, and apply it with Bible prophecy so we get some balance of truth. Now that's where I differ from all the other people you got out there, is that I apply real Bible prophecy, not the, beating into the ground Ezekiel 38:39, which is far away from happening, very far. I deal more with Jeremiah 49, Zechariah 12 and 13, Malachi 3 and 4, and this is more relevant. Now, before we get started, I want to tell you that fires are really increasing in Canada and America, okay? And that's a sign, okay, that you read about. It actually appears in Jeremiah 50:51. It says, I will kindle fires in and around your cities. And you're seeing a very marked increase of fires. We're seeing a lot more volcanoes than normal erupting. And we're seeing this pretty decent amount of earthquakes that are, let's say a 5 or greater, not 8 or 9, but 5 can be a real shaker, And now there's some unusual heat wave coming into America. And weather all around the world is very odd. Okay? And we're just now getting into the beginning of earthquake season, of hurricane season, I believe. It actually runs until October, but I think the peaks are really July and August. But we'll watch that. I don't wish to operate as an earthquake, volcano, weather channel reporting such events. I do have postings of these individual events on my Telegram channel. Telegram is free. If you want to use my Telegram, you'll get a lot of information about the wars in the Middle East, updated at least today, in these days, at least 10 times a day, at least. And a lot of videos and pictures is free. Just drop me an email asking me for the invite link for Telegram. So my email address is in the description box all the way at the bottom of it, okay? So what I'm going to do right now is go into the live stream. Oh, what we're going to so we're going to cover what Iran can do, how, who, what, when, where, and all of that, and what America's doing, and the mistakes I think America's making in dealing with a Middle East criminally insane country like Iran, and how that's likely to cause problems. But then again, I'm going to clean it up by saying Trump may actually know what he's doing, and he's tending to cause these problems so he could put together a coalition. And we'll get into all of that. And let me check our live stream and make sure we got a live stream, and then put a post up, and then we'll get going. We'll give people some time to come in.
Let me check our live stream.
It looks like we got plenty of sound and picture. My moderators are here. Thank you, moderators. Very hot and humid in Florida, yeah. Okay, let me get a post up quickly. We'll also cover what Iran's doing with attacking Israel, which is a very big step backwards in attacking us. But in terms of us attacking them, it's full on, 24/7. Okay, let me get my post up and we'll get into all this stuff. Just be another few seconds. Okay, I got that. I think I got it taken care of. Yep. All right, let me do some praise, being a Bible-believing site, Old and New Testament. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 All right, the most intelligent place to start on what Iran can do is to discuss the closure of the Straits of Hormuz, which is a choker point, maybe 30 miles wide, and ships entering and leaving the Persian Gulf need to pass through there. 20 to 30%, well, it's probably 20 to 25% of the world oil goes through the Persian Gulf, and about 30% of the natural gas. LNG, liquid natural gas, right? Goes through the Persian Gulf. So this will be a rather substantial blow to the world economically if Iran closes it. Now, why is this being talked about first and foremost? Because the Iranian parliament yesterday approved the closure of the Straits of Hormuz. What happens next is what they call the Supreme Leaders Council, which is Ayatollah Shmukhmeni, his name is really Khomeini, has some sort of council. He's a dictator. It's nonsense. He tells everybody what to do. The council will make a decision on closing the straits? Well, I'm rather certain that Khomeini's going to issue a decision maybe today, tomorrow, I don't know when, to close the straits. Now, that doesn't mean that he's going to implement it right away. Got that? So he can get his propaganda attention out there pretty easily. Okay? Well, he approves it, but that doesn't mean he's going to do it. So nobody's going to attack him until he does it. There's a small amount of false news out there, quite small right now, that people are saying he's already done it. Well, no. The Parliament approved it. Nobody out there has said that his Security Council has approved it yet. It could very well happen this morning. I have no idea when. But I'm rather certain he's going to approve it, because denying it and saying, no, we're not going to do it, that brings the tensions down. That's not what he wants. He wants tensions up. So he might say that he has approved it with his lunatic Security Council, but he won't implement it right away, or he can. Now, there's a lot of ways to close the Straits of Hormuz. Now, why would Khomeini gravitate towards this? Because it's a punk weak move. I'll explain. It's not attacking the United States or any other country. It's not attacking any American military base. Their alibi for this is that they're closing the Straits of Hormuz to protect Iran from aggression. In other words, America bombed our bases. We're afraid they'll come in with warships and attack the rest of our nuclear facilities or our missile cities or us or whatever, right? Is that a decent alibi story? Oh, yeah. It'll hold water with some people. Okay. So, does this Khomeini idiot think America's going to bomb him and attack him based on closing the Straits of Hormuz? Well, this is always calling for speculation. In my opinion, as a guess, I think he believes that it won't lead to him getting bombed by America. Israel's bombing him around the clock. So that train has left the station a long time ago. All right. So some people are saying that Israel is not telling the truth about Iran having only about 1,000 or 1,200 or 1,500 or something like that ballistic missiles left. Okay, let me explain something to you. They're saying they saw a lot of underground missile bunker cities all over the place and this and that. Well, when you analyze a lunatic, criminally insane country's missile supply, like we could go to Hezbollah, they were talking of, 150,000, 250,000 missiles, even more. It proved to be very untrue. And Israel whittled down their missile supplies with a very large amount of attacks on missile storage facilities, manufacturing, and so forth. There probably were 80 or 100 attacks on different locations, a lot of which were for missiles and missile storage, and they lost their ability to wage an ongoing day after day missile attacks on Israel. So my bottom line here is the IDF Israel Defense Forces was, decently accurate. I mean, I think they were telling Israel the truth, and the actions of Hezbollah back that up, okay? The same with Hamas. Hamas probably had in the vicinity of 20 or 30,000 missiles, and they were mostly junk. They didn't have that many ballistics, but they had some. And it was the same thing. We kept bombing, blowing them up, whittling them down, whittling them down, whittling, and then it stopped. Again, was the IDF being honest with Israel? Yes. I would point it out quickly if I felt they weren't, but they were being honest, in my opinion. Are they being honest with the Houthis? Well, I don't get any figures from the IDF as to what the Houthis are doing in terms of how many missiles they got, what caliber, where they are, who's giving them to them, are they making them? The IDF isn't really coming out with that information because it could be they don't want to reveal they know it. It could also be they don't have a whole ton of reliable intel as to what's really going on, and it could also be both. So I think they're putting the Houthis on the back burner, and the Houthis are no longer attacking every day, by the way. They're attacking almost every day. Their missiles don't get through probably 98% of them, 99% of them. And it does cause the people to go into the bomb shelters typically at night, which is what the Houthis said their goal is. So I haven't heard Israel give any false information. Not giving information out is far from false information, okay? So if the IDF is telling us that Iran has 1,000, let's say they're 1,200 or so, ballistic missiles, I believe them based on their prior revelations to us with Hamas and Hezbollah being fairly accurate. Now, that doesn't mean that Iran doesn't have 25,000 of crappy, junky missiles that no way, shape, or form are going to reach Israel. These are real sophisticated long-range ballistic missiles. Some are allegedly hypersonic, which I think some are. Okay? So they might have 75,000 junkie missiles too. Now, what would the junkie missiles, well, they're not really junkie, what would they be able to do? Well, they would be more or less in the family of missiles that Ukraine is using on Russia. They'll go on the absolute furthest distance, 300 miles. Most of them are 150, 190 miles, something like that. And they may have a lot of those. Are those sufficient to shoot across the Persian Gulf and attack U.S. bases and oil refineries and ports and piers and electric grid or whatever for Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, yes, even parts of Jordan? And can the Houthis hit Saudi Arabia with their missiles and damage the big oil refineries? Yes, they've done it twice in the past. They've damaged Aramco with light strikes. If they hit them with 5 or 6 missiles, the downtime on the Aramco oil facility would probably be, well, I mean, it's hard to say what was the damage, but 90 days to a year. Okay? It could be they hit it with enough missiles in the right place where you got to build a whole new oil refinery. It's doubtful, but possible. And they could also use their long-range missiles to hit Jordan. So Iraq could easily hit Jordan, piece of cake, if they're going to work with Iran, which they seem to be willing to do. Just in passing, a church was attacked by Muslims in Syria, I believe yesterday, and 25 people were killed plus wounded. You got to ask yourself, why isn't God protecting said churches, don't you? What do you think? Okay. So is this a wise move that Iran would be doing with closing the Straits of Hormuz? Well, what I think their motive is to get the nations of the world upset and mad by rising oil prices and inflation threats of a serious nature. Okay? And what does that do? Well, it's going to get a lot of the Muslim nations to go call for support for Iran and other nations, probably. And it's also going to get other nations around the world to put pressure on their countries to get this fighting in Iran to stop so they could go back to filling up their cars with reasonably priced gasoline. That's all they care about. And Iran is hoping that becomes effective enough where they can stay in one piece without having to give up sell the farm and agree never to enrich uranium again and end their ballistic missiles and stay in business as a death dealer. That's what Iran's goal is. Will it work? No. How can they shut the Straits of Hormuz? Well, the sad news here is there's a lot of ways they could do it. This is a problem. One simplistic way is to use short-range missiles from land in Iran, targeting ships that violate their don't enter the Straits of Hormuz. Do they have such missile capability? Yes, lots of them. Can they launch them off mobile launching platforms? Yes, and from land. The Straits of Hormuz is so tight and narrow, you can just about use artillery as well. In some cases, you could. So that's one nightmare for shipping. Next nightmare, the go-fast boats. Iran has over 1,500 go-fast boats that are, 60 to 90 feet long, probably most of them 60, 70 feet. And they go rather quickly. They can go, over 50 miles an hour up to 65, 70 miles an hour, depending on the model boat. These are civilian boats that have been modified to be, weaponized. They can carry anti-ship missiles. They can carry Katyusha rockets, which, when they're armor-piercing, could severely damage a missile. They'd have to be about 2 miles away. They can fire torpedoes off the decks of these boats, depending on the model of boat. And the boats have missile launchers for small missiles, ship-to-ship missiles. Some of them do. And a lot of them have 1 or 2 guns, like they might have a 50 cal and a 20 millimeter. They might have a 50 cal and a 30 millimeter, which is a pretty heavy gun. It could rip civilian ships' hulls up, and the cabins, whatever you call them, where the offices are, where they run the boat. Usually container ships and oil tankers and grain ships and stuff like that have a section of the boat where they have what looks like a little 5 or 6 story building, like a little apartment building. And what they have in this building is extremely exposed. They have the cabins or quarters for the crew, and they get a rather large room, not like a cruise ship room, more like a nice suite on a cruise ship. I'd probably get uh, 550, 650, 700 even square feet. Probably more like 500 or 600 square feet. So they're not cramped in. And they're frequently one person in a cabin. They got plenty. They're only running 20, 23 people on these boats. They're not on the big ones. They're not running a lot of people. They don't need them. They have the kitchen in the mess hall where they go and eat. They got a little medical facility. They got recreation facility, maybe ping pong, pool, computer games, internet room, a little gym. Um, they got rooms where they drive the boat from, when they have the radios, and where they do navigation, and then they got people that work on the engines, and that's easy to hit with a Katusha or something like that, and you disable the ship. Of course, you're going to cause electrical downtime and fires, maybe. You can wreck the ship easily. These things are easy to take out, no problem. Okay? Um, so the go fast boats are very dangerous, and they swarm attack. So if you start sending American destroyers in, they could swarm attack the destroyers and possibly get close enough to sink a destroyer. It's a real threat. It's not a remote, hard to believe it ever would happen. No, it's a pretty substantial threat. All right. Now they also have submarines, about a dozen, that could torpedo ships. I don't think they would do that because they don't want to waste submarines and torpedoes. There's no need. The far cheaper go-fast boats could take out civilian vessels. And they're not going to use aircraft to threaten and bomb or missile attack civilian vessels because they don't have the aircraft. They do have some real warships, not a lot, that look like destroyers or cruisers. And then they have a lot of boats that look like container ships. I don't know how many. They might have 6, they might have 10, they might have 4, I don't know. These are civilian vessels like container ships that were converted to enable the ship to launch a lot of missiles or drones or both. And then other container ships actually have containers stacked on them, and they open the container and they fire. There's a missile launcher in there that fires a missile. The very likely way that Iran will close the Straits of Hormuz is with mines. Now, naval mines. Now, there's the old World War II mine that's a big round ball with 1,000, 2,000 pounds of explosive with 15 or 25 spikes coming out. And if the spike hits something magnetic like a piece of metal, it causes the thing to detonate, with generally a result of severe hull damage. Now, they're not going to use those kind of mines because a minesweeper will just go scoop them up, or a military boat could go through with guys with binoculars at a slow rate of speed looking for floating mines, and then just hitting them with a burst of machine gun fire, even from an assault rifle, and that would just detonate the mine. That's the end of it. So they're not going to use those. They have mines that I found out the Iranians do, where it looks like a depth charge, if you will, or like a big oil drum or something like that. You know? No, it's maybe 4 or 5 feet by 2 feet, 2.5 feet wide, or something like that, or 3 feet. You know, and they drop it on the bottom. Of course, the straits don't have a lot of deep water. There's parts where the water's not that deep, for sure. and the thing lands with it pointed up. Now, this is the scary part. These things got electronics with a battery in there, and they're sending electromagnetic signals up to the surface right over where this mine, if you want to call it a mine, is. And when a ship comes overhead, what it does is it fires this sort of hybrid thing like an underwater missile slash torpedo. It's more like a torpedo, straight up, which has a substantial warhead. And it hits the ship and blows up right at the bottom of the hull, where the ship is pretty vulnerable. And the ship's hull could crack, blow open, and it's going to mean a pretty rapid sinking of the ship or a severe damaging of the ship. And, it's a big problem. Okay? Now, when you drop these mines on the bottom, it's very hard for the minesweeper to get them. A more conventional approach to this would be they drop a mine and it has a anchor, if you will, and it's got a chain or a cable attached to the mine, so they can figure out how far below the water they want the mine to go by using a depth meter to tell how far the bottom is, and then they adjust the cable to, so many feet, so they have the mine maybe 40 feet under the water. So it's going to be under the hull of the boats. It may be unusual to find a boat that goes down 40 feet in the water, or they could do 50 feet or 20 feet. And this is not a contact mine with spikes hitting it. This is a mine that is also detecting with electromagnetic signals a big ship passing overhead. And when said ship passes overhead, this thing just detonates. And it causes a big explosion. Now this is, you're talking probably 2,000 pound explosion or more going off underneath the hull of the ship. It could blow the ship up out of the water. It can break the hull, it cause damage, It's like a depth charge attack with a submarine. They dropped these big barrels of explosives and they tried to get it near the submarine. And if it exploded near the submarine, it would cause a breach in the hull, breakage, and things like that. Today, the submarines are, they got titanium hulls. They use double, triple hulls. Mostly double, I think. So if they actually use a torpedo and they get a break in the hull, it's the exterior of the hull, the exterior hull. The interior hull is going to hold up. So the submarine's going to still be operational and be able to remain submerged to a great extent and so forth. So I don't think the torpedoes are the greatest choice against modern submarines today. I try to use a torpedo or something like that. But anyway, these are the different ways Iran could operate. The safest way for Iran to operate to close the straits is to use mines, because it will effectively close the straits. Now, I am told there are minesweepers in the Persian Gulf area already. The problem with the minesweepers, you're probably looking at a 100-foot, 120-foot boat, maybe 150 feet, maybe 80 feet, whatever. It's probably around 100 to 150 feet, depending on the boat. It's, ocean capable, but it's not it doesn't have any defense in it. It doesn't have any radar to detect incoming threats and take them down. So the way you have to protect the minesweeper is to put at least one destroyer with it that could accomplish takedowns to protect the minesweeper. You might have to put two. Now, this is where the trouble sets in, big time. Iran can launch a bunch of drones and missiles from land at this minesweeper. The flight time of the drones is not going to be very high. It might be 20 minutes or 45 minutes. Then they could coordinate it so that the drones will arrive at about the same time as the missile launch and overwhelm the defense mechanisms of the ship. Will this be effective? I think I would give the Iranians about an 80% chance of being able to blow up the minesweepers, if not higher. Okay. Could they use their little submarines, including mini submarines, to attack the minesweepers? Yep. Could they just not attack the minesweepers, let them clear the mines, and then go back and lay new mines with their submarines? Absolutely. And that avoids a confrontation. And still keeps the Straits of Hormuz closed and the Persian Gulf closed, essentially. In reality, it closes the Persian Gulf. So that way they're not actually engaging any American or Israeli naval vessel in combat, which is what I think Iran wants to do. That way they accomplish the closing of the Persian Gulf, a very serious spike in oil prices. I think you're probably looking at $200-300 a barrel, which is going to be crippling around the world. Now, Trump got enough oil to subsidize it and keep the prices the same for a while. But Biden ran the oil reserves down in America, so I don't know how long a while is, but I would say 90 days anyway. But Trump's going to have difficulty helping NATO with fuel, helping Europe with fuel. Central and South America and the Caribbean are going to have massive trouble, as will Africa, some countries in Asia, you know, a lot of problems. Okay, and it'll be, the impact will be worldwide. And Iran could be very clever and accomplish this without confronting the American warships in combat. Now, if they have to, they can use their go-fast boats, their destroyers, and their submarines to confront American vessels, but they would most likely lose their attacks with the American Navy. I don't believe they would survive. I don't think they would make it. They would be severe. They'd lose their fleet, if you want to even call it a fleet. I think Trump's just another president. What did he do for Israel? He did not a lot for Israel. He did something for Israel. He basically attacked the nuclear facilities, and we're still taking missiles. Not much anymore. He did help us, there's no doubt about it. But what's he doing now is very weird. Okay? Very weird. Does Trump have a good plan to overcome this closing of the canal? Well, he's got, by now I'm pretty sure the second aircraft carrier is here. And now he's waiting for number 3 and number 4, which is going to give him 240 combat aircraft combined and a lot of warships. He's probably, if he's got the guts to do it, he'll tell the Iranians that they're going to clear the mines, and if they place any new mines or use their vessels to become aggressive against maritime shipping, he will attack them. But guys, it's not going to work. The first thing you're going to see is the insurance companies tell the Navy, the maritime vessels, that they're not covering them with insurance. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is they're going to say, get your ships out of there. We're not covering you on insurance. Now, they might give them 48 hours to get out or something like that. I don't know. They insure the boat itself, which is frequently, 50 million, 100 million or more. It could be 300 million or more even. They insure the load on the boat, all the oil or grain or whatever the heck it is, right? It's insured. And the crew is insured for death and stuff. So they cancel all that, and the owners of the boats just got to get out of there. And they can't go back until this is lifted. And Iran knows this too. So what Trump is going to probably do is watch Iran do this. He probably believes they will. And then raise a coalition. The UK already said they would join with him. Now Israel is with him. That's 3. And I'm pretty sure you're going to see France, believe it or not, and Germany hook up with Trump on this, and maybe even Italy. Okay? Now, when he has this coalition, he's bulletproof from public opinion and stuff like that. Now, he's waiting for them to close the Straits of Hormuz, because who's going to get stressed crazy out of that one? The UK, France, and Germany. Okay? Because they need Trump to give them subsidized oil at low prices, or they need to do something. They're already paying a lot of money for oil, way more than America is. So how are they going to run their buses, their trucks, and how are people going to drive to work and go play around on the Autobahn at 100 miles an hour and all? How are they going to do it? No, they're not. The value of automobiles in the used market will plummet. Demand for new vehicles will drop unless it's some super economic vehicle. Back around 1980, I bought a Volkswagen Rapid Diesel, a small little car. It had a 4-speed stick shift. I lived in San Francisco. Was I able to take this thing up and down those steep hills? Yep. Was it a little bit... Well, I was a very good driver then when I was young, and it was a little bit hairy to get the thing to go on a hill, but I was able to do it. And it was getting, when it was new, it was getting 56 miles to the gallon. And diesel was $1 a gallon back then. And the problem with the car is about the first 2 years, I think, the battery held up. And then after that, the battery would die at about a year or something like that, year and a half. Because of the glow plugs, and San Francisco is cold at night and in the morning. And you got to turn the thing on. But that was not a major thing. If the battery died, you could get a jump and then drive it in and switch batteries, or have it towed and switch batteries with AAA. It wasn't a big event. And then as the car got older, it went down to about 53 on the highway and around the high 40s in the city. So I used to fill that. I used to use the car pretty avidly. I'd fill it up every 3 weeks on a very small tank, a 10 or 12 gallon tank. Some people used to put a second tank in, and then they would fill the car up every few months. And this technology existed back in 1980. Why don't they still have it? See what I'm saying? By now, they should be making a car that doesn't give you 56 miles a gallon, should give you 76 miles to the gallon. But they don't do it. See, there's something wrong with that industry. Okay, I know 56 miles a gallon was possible on the highway back 45 years ago. Now, you could take it from there. The car was easy to find parking for in San Francisco because there's a lot of parking spaces in the street that are in between other people's driveways that you can't fit a real full-size car into. But there weren't a lot of little miniature cars back then, so you could put this Volkswagen Rabbit in there. It had a sunroof. It had no air conditioner because I was in San Francisco. You didn't need it. Now, if you had an air conditioner and you had to go up those big hills in San Francisco, would it have worked? Oh, I highly doubt it. No, you would have had to shut the air conditioner off. But once you got it on the freeway, you could maintain speed. You couldn't go that fast. If somebody was tailgating you, because it was a diesel, you could put your foot down on the clutch while you're on the freeway and just to disengage the transmission and just tap the gas pedal aggressively and it would blow black smoke out, which they wouldn't enjoy getting, and they would stop tailgating you because, you know, sometimes idiots would pick up trucks and do that. It was easy to handle. The car was very maneuverable, but you had to pay close attention when you drive because you didn't have any arm or protection against getting hit. So you had to be pretty alert. I wouldn't recommend it except for somebody that's on the young side and a very, very good alert driver. You got to be careful with something like that because you could get plowed, you know? If you hit another small car or even a medium car, you'd probably be okay. But if you hit a big full-size heavy car or an SUV or a pickup, you'd have problems with it. But anyway, as the case may be, I find it curious that they were able to do that so many years ago and why you don't see it anymore and why it didn't get better. I would think in 45 years, they could have got the thing at least up to 66 miles a gallon, if not 80 miles a gallon. But they never did they? Makes me wonder, doesn't it? Unless maybe back then they maxed it out and that was as good as they were ever going to get it. But I don't even think they sell cars today that you could run on diesel at 56 miles to a gallon. Maybe they do, I don't know. But then buying an electric car doesn't make a lot of sense. Anyway, so is Iran not going to close the Straits of Hormuz? No, they're going to try it because it's a relatively safe move for them. Their analysis tells them Trump's not going to shoot at them or sink their warships just because they put landmines down and shut the Straits of Hormuz. And I think Trump is going to be slow to do it. He's going to let it happen. He's going to let oil prices go up. The stock market will suffer. And he knows the pressure is going to go on the other countries. Then comes the coalition. When he gets his coalition, then he gives an ultimatum to Iran, which they will deny, and he attacks whatever they're doing to cause the closure of the Straits of Hormuz. And then Iran has to come up with another plan. So if they attack the American bases, there's going to be fairly immediate heavy bombing on Iran. Now, Israel is doing fairly heavy bombing on Iran round the clock. That ain't going to change. But they're going to then pick up America doing heavy bombing on them, hitting missile sites. Different missile sites will be used. Now, I think it was Hegseth or Rubio. I think it was Rubio. Rubio, Secretary of State of America, said that if any of Iran's proxies, which would basically be the Iranian-backed militia in Iraq and even in South Syria, and the Houthis, Hezbollah says they're going to stay out of it, and so far they have, and Hamas doesn't have anything. If they get into a fight and attack American interests, they're going to turn around and attack Iran directly. And I'm sure they'll attack the proxy as well. So the big ones would be basically Iraq and Yemen. So it seems to me, knowing how Iran works, having lived in the Middle East and in Israel for many years, I've never lived anywhere but in Israel in the Middle East. I know that this is likely Iran's next move. And they're winding down, they're not winding down, they're minimizing the attacks on Israel right now. There was, in the evening yesterday, in the late evening, there was a warning of a swarm of drones launched from Iran to Israel, and we didn't get any red alerts from any problems in Israel. So I believe aircraft on the part of Israel, possibly America, possibly American Navy vessels, but doubtful. The country of Jordan, maybe Saudi Arabia, and so help do the takedowns. On the drones coming from Iran, we normally take down about 100% of them. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, would you please hit the thumbs up button? It makes a difference. It takes it 2 or 3 seconds, so I'm asking, please hit the thumbs up button. Thank you. That's the least you can do. It's not, it's not giving money. It's just hitting the thumbs up button. It's pretty simple, right? If you want more updates like this, then I suggest you subscribe. Okay. When does this happen? Probably this week. It's going to come to a head. Trump will let this closure develop, I think, to build this coalition, which might happen in a day or two, by the way, because he's very close. He's got the UK. He's looking for France and Germany. He's got the UK, he's got Israel. He wants, I think, France and Germany, and then he'll have his coalition. Then he'll do whatever he has to do to stop the closure of the Straits of Hormuz and tell Iran they better not do it again. But he still won't attack Iran. Then Iran's next move is what? Attack the oil-producing countries like Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia to spike oil prices that way, hit the refineries and the ports they use to export the oil. Yeah. That's a very dangerous move for them, because then these countries are going to join in Trump's coalition. And they're going to start playing the song Bomb, 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 Iran. And that could happen sooner. So that's a dangerous game. But it's not necessarily one Iran won't do. I think Iran will try anything to get everybody off their back. Sleeper agents. Does Iran have sleeper agents? I believe so. They would be in America, they would be in the UK, and probably in Germany and France, and maybe some other countries. Will they try to deploy these sleeper agents? They will. What will the sleeper agents be able to do? Well, this is the million-dollar question. If they're fanatical Muslims ready to lay their life down, they can go rent a car, with money given by Iran, and drive into crowds smuggled firearms in these countries is very, very easy. They just explain to these people how to make contacts with the criminals, or they use their intelligence agencies to buy the guns from criminal organizations in the respective countries and turn them over to these people. And they walk into coffee shops, restaurants, malls, anywhere, and start shooting people till they get killed. If they want to run the sleeper agents on a higher level without sacrificing them, then they would go for IEDs with remote detonation. So they would build an improvised explosive device, an IED, probably with at least 20, 30 pounds of explosives, and place it somewhere like on a bus stop, a train station, a restaurant, a crowded shopping area, a university, a hospital, near a school, any sick thing they want to do. And remote detonate it. The chances of the terrorists getting away with it would be substantial, very good. Doing it in Israel and the chances of the terrorists getting away with it are dismal, because the Israelis are very smart when it comes to this, but these other countries have no experience to speak of with this. They'll use the cameras in the street that the stores in the city have to try to locate the bomber by seeing how he placed the bomb and looking for him using his phone to detonate it. But if they're clever, they could do it without them easily being detected. They could take a car and park it with 300 or 400 pounds of explosives in it and use the disguise when they get out of the car. You're talking about trained sleeper agents, not fanatic, religious zealots, So they could disguise their appearance, in other words, make themselves even look like a woman, or make themselves look like an old man or a young man, depending what they're not, they can make themselves look like. And they could wear a hat, big sunglasses, so you're not going to get any real facial ID, a phony beard and mustache, big glasses, a hat coming down to the eyebrows. What kind of facial recognition are you going to get out of that? Nothing. You're going to get nothing. Are they going to be able to determine the height of the person? Sure. When he gets out of the car. Or is it possible that these people will find a place to plant the bomb where the cameras are not there? Yeah. Could they sabotage the cameras? Yeah. They could get them with spray paint. They could shoot them with a BB gun or a real gun. They could have one team sabotage the cameras, and then another team comes and blows it up. There's a lot of things that can be done. And so what would that do? It would start making the nations crazy. Would the nations then turn around and start bombing Iran? Not necessarily, probably not. Iran would say we didn't do it. The nations would say, well, we don't have any proof they did. What the heck are we doing? We got to figure something out. See, what are they going to figure out? Nothing. Waiting, hoping things get better, This is not Iran's desired course of action, because it's not very likely to cause many nations in the world to start screaming, we want peace in Iran, we want things to calm down, we want things to stop. This is one reason why Israel's working around the clock at them. They're afraid of this. Now, we know from prophecy in Jeremiah 49, verse 34, it starts with the prophecy of Elam, which is Iran, and can also include parts of Iraq and Syria. It gets destroyed substantially to the point where the people have to leave the country. and scatter into all the countries of the world where the sword follows them and they get cut off. So we know that's going to happen, but we don't know exactly how we get there. That's how Bible prophecy usually works. You know what the end result is, but you don't know how it starts, what the interim results are, how it builds up, and how it comes to pass. You don't always get that information, but it says that the enemies in the plural of Iran will destroy her. So if you have enemies in the plural, you could say America and Israel are enemies. That's just two. But if you add the UK in, that's three. Now we're at enemies. But I think it might be more, likely more. The UK can pack a punch, and Iran's not going to enjoy having a fight with them as well. They got 2 aircraft carriers. They got very good fighter jets. They don't have a big military, but they have a good military. Iran may try to pull other aces out of the hole, which would be stupid, like hostages or kidnapping. I don't think they're going to targeted assassinations. And you could try this, but I don't think they're going to get anywhere with that. So the safe move is closing Straits of Hormuz. That's the direction they're headed right now. They're going to keep attacking Israel, but they're not dedicating a lot of hardware, missiles and drones to it. They are throwing drones at us, but to no effect. And the missiles, they're not putting large amounts of missiles out at us. We're being told by people that say they're in the know that Iran is working a war of attrition on us, which would last 2 to 6 months, where they're hoping we run out of Iron Dome missile launchers and things of that nature. In the meantime, Israel is spending a lot of time and energy hitting anything related to ballistic missiles launchers. We're told it takes them a few months to build a launcher for a long-range missile, so it's not something that they're going to just be able to mass produce, okay? Many months, like 6, They're complicated. They got generators, they got a radar system of some sort, they're electronic. It's not a simple thing to make those. So we want to shut down their missile launching capability as much as possible. So that's what predominantly our attacks are. We also want to shut their infrastructure down pertaining to the military and the government. Ultimately, I think you'll see the power grid go out in the whole country of Iran and many other things. The water supply will go, everything. That's what we got right now. So if Iran opens up on the American bases, America's going to start bombing them. Then they're not going to be able to attack Israel anymore. They're going to fall apart rapidly. They don't want to go that route. So they'd much rather go closing the Straits of Hormuz. The same with the sleeper agents. They launch the sleeper agents, then America goes in and bombs them incessantly along with Israel, and they're finished. So that's the story of where we're at right now. Let me take a look in the live stream, and then I'll check the social media I use, which goes through the whole Middle East, and we'll check and see if any new news has popped up. Are you in it? Yeah, there's a lot of missiles and stuff flying overhead by me. Drones, missiles, mostly missiles with a lot of takedowns. I did a live stream yesterday, and during the live stream we were under attack, and you could hear what it's like. You hear the Iron Domes taking down the missiles, you hear the sirens. You might want to look at that. It was yesterday's live stream, early on in the live stream. Someone else mentioned sleeper agents. What would they do? Well, they would predominantly do explosive devices at strategic locations to cause a lot of death and mayhem and crippling and stuff like that. They could use explosives, they could use guns. I doubt they would resort to knives, although they could. They could do targeted assassinations on political figures in America, but I don't think they have that capability right now. Car ramming, they could blow, if Iran wanted to take a soft approach, they would try to blow bridges, tunnels, trains, things like that, destroy those things to just hurt the country, not cause a lot of death. They could go that route. I doubt they will. Sleeper agents generally are going to kill people. Generally, they use firearms or knives, and they use car ramming and explosives. One of their favorites is to get on a bus with a backpack that has, maybe, 10, 20 pounds of explosives. And they try to put the backpack under the seat in the bus or up in a cargo bin if the bus has it, very quietly, and leave it there. And then they walk off the bus drives away, and then they hit their cell phone to send a signal to the backpack to blow the explosive. Now in Israel, people watch very carefully for somebody that's going to leave a backpack and just get off the bus. They're not, it's the bus drivers are given anti-terrorism training. Many of them carry a pistol. That's not the case in the rest of the world. So they would be able to get away with this for months, probably till the countries took measures to stop it. So that's one way. Now the problem with explosives in bus is a contained area, and the percussive force of the bus, of the explosion, it hits the windows and the walls and the ceiling of the bus, and it creates a lot of damage. The people that are very close to the explosive will get killed and severely injured. The others will get superficially injured. So you might get 50 injured people in a big bus or something like that. Another way they do it is at a bus stop, where you have a collection of maybe 10 or 20 people or something like that waiting for the bus. And they set their backpack down, and then when they see the bus coming, they walk away and detonate. Again, alert people in Israel would notice this, and then they would run after the guy, probably throw the backpack away, tell people to run away, stuff like that. That's another way they do it. Waiting for a train, in a train or a subway, same thing. Usually the windows blow out and it lets a lot of the pressure loose, but it's still very dangerous because it's a confined space, and they could do the same thing on a subway or a train. So that's basically, that's about it. Do they do buildings? Normally not. Now, could they launch missiles from inside the United States? Yes. With the vast amount of sleeper agents rumored to be there, do I believe they have missiles in the United States, either that they built or smuggled? Absolutely. It's easy to smuggle stuff in on containers. America searches, 1 to 3% of the containers? That's easy to get them in. Can they fire missiles from within the United States at airports and train terminals and buildings? Yeah. Yeah. Will they get caught? Sometimes, not all the time. Can they launch drones from inside the United States with explosives? Absolutely. Would they be big loitering drones? No, no. They'd be small drones with small explosives, but still very dangerous. And like I said, they'd park a car or a truck with explosives and remote detonate it, stuff like that. And when you're in a crowded area or public area, you cause a lot of death and destruction. And they have many decades of experience in this. So if Iran wants to go down this path, they will, and then they're going to be subject to a lot of bombing themselves from America, and a coalition will pop up against them very quickly. So they're hoping for the um, blockade or the closing of the Persian Gulf or the Straits of Hormuz to be a way of them inconveniencing the world, causing problems, attention for their plight, uh, without triggering America bombing them further. Okay, we got a prayer request for a dog named Chico. We do very well with animal prayers for animals. Chico injured his paw and he can't walk on it. One of his paws. The owner doesn't know what happened. The dog went out to go potty and came back limping. He could have one of those little round balls of stickers in between in his paw, trapped in there, because my dogs would get that way sometimes from that. Or we could have a splinter of something stuck in there. So you got to check his paws. Open them up and put your fingers in there and make sure it's okay. But let's pray for Chico the dog. Anything could have happened. We don't know. Chico the dog, healing for the paw. Okay, let me see if I have any other prayer requests, which is an important thing we do for each other that you don't really see much of in the other social media. I don't see any more prayer requests. I'm going to take a break, and I have a guy that I follow that speaks Arabic, and he made a list of what Iran could do, and I'll go through that with you in a minute. One or two things I didn't mention. I'll be right back. All right. He points out closing the Straits of Hormuz will bring about a global shockwave. He's right. Oil will go, he says $200. He's right. It could go more, but probably about there, a barrel. It's about 75 a barrel or 77 a barrel now. It'll disrupt ship traffic, of course, not just oil, other things too, oil, natural gas, and other things. Um, the other Muslim states are going to have trouble getting deliveries of goods that they import. They're going to be very mad. Oh, stinking iPad. Never buy another Apple product again in my life. They stink. Attacking American bases, we talked about that. Cyber attacks on American infrastructure in America and elsewhere, yes, they could do that. That'll probably just get them more cyber attacks back on their own heads, but they could do it on financial infrastructures, hospital, government, communication, airports, this type of thing. They could access their proxies. We talked about that. Attacking American warships. We talked about that. Submarines. We talked about that. They might try to interdict, in other words, stop civilian vessels in the Persian Gulf and board them with their soldiers, take control and bring the ship into port and keep the crew as hostage. That is likely something you'll see them do. So at about 3 o'clock in the morning, we did get a ballistic missile headed from Iran, and we did take it down without any damage or casualties. Can Iran get America in America? Well, with sleeper agents, they could. They could also do crazy moves, like get some of their disguised ships that launch missiles that look like container boats to get close to America and start attacking its cities if they could get away with it. I don't know. The only thing I think they could get away with without Trump bombing the daylights out of them is the blockade. Trump is not going to immediately start bombing them right at the beginning of the blockade. Trump will start threatening them and telling them they're not going to have a country and raise a coalition, and they could get away with it for a while. And they'll figure, well, we could always stop the blockade. But we might be able to raise enough worldwide opinion against America to make the war stop. You know, they're desperate. They'll just try it. Maybe. I think they're going to go through with that. I don't doubt it. I'm reading about the news, what Iran is publishing in their own news agency. Give me a second, I'll keep updating you. So the Iranians are saying that the missile we said they launched at 3 o'clock in the morning came from Yemen, but we got a statement from the Israeli Defense Forces that was false. It came from Iran. They apparently didn't want to take the credit for it for some reason. Maybe they're afraid that Trump will come down on them. We're beginning to hit several military bases in Iran. We did last night, the day before, and the day before. So we're not just hitting missile facilities, we're hitting their bases. And when you hit the bases, you're basically disabling the military capability of Iran to varying extents, depending on the base you hit and how you hit it and with what, and you know, many variables, of course. Um, well, I'm getting a headline here that sounds interesting, but I think it's exagger- exaggerated. It's coming from X, and it says Iran declares war on the United States, vows revenge. Iran's reply, this is coming off something that looks like an Iranian letterhead, but I don't know if it's real. Let's read it. The enemy is under the delusion that if he has damaged our nuclear installations, but we had already uncovered his conspiracy back in March. We had timely moved all strategic materials to secure locale. This is just Iran, all their lies. You know, they didn't officially declare war on the United States that I know of. Okay, this is just more standard operating lies from Iran. Dmitry Medvedev, okay, Medvedev, the he's a highly placed Satan bot leader of Russia. Uh, Not anywhere near as high as Putin, but he's up there. He was at one time a president of Russia, a long time ago. Uh, the future production of nuclear weapons will continue. A number of countries are ready to directly supply Iran with their own nuclear warheads. Yeah, there we go with the whole nuclear junk again. Okay, okay, this is no, we're striking. Oh, this was a little while ago in Kermanshah in Iran. Uh, Trump is saying that the damage done to the nuclear facility was monumental, in other words, very substantial. I think with 14 30,000 pound bombs, they definitely busted things up. But I think predominantly they were entrances, exits, and ducts for air. Maybe they got electrical generators. I don't know. I think they probably busted things up pretty good. The IAEA guy is saying that there's a radiation danger at the Fordo plant, I think. And he's saying, I wish Iran would let me go in there and measure it. And Iran is saying, no, we'll clean it up. Everything's okay. I don't think anything's going to come of that. So Israel was hitting Iran in different parts of Iran on the east and the west last night at the same time. That's going to break the spirit of Iran, but you see, you're dealing with psychotics, and they might believe their own lies. After years and years of lying, they might actually believe their own lies, and they're operating irrationally. That's what you got. They say they shot down another UAV of Israel's in Iran. Maybe. I mean, they've done that. It's possible. It's not going to, change the war. So I'm not seeing anything about any recent attacks since I started the live stream. We haven't had any red alerts. Let me look somewhere else and see what we can pick up is going on right now. Um, Netanyahu is coming up with troubling things, saying we're close to reaching our goals in Iran. I don't have any idea what he's talking about. Uh, these goals have not been publicly disclosed that I'm aware of, and they're, of course, subject to change. And as Iran escalates, they will change. Please hit the like button, guys. That takes you like 2 seconds. And is that the least I could ask for? Yeah, I think. The United States has very effective military defense, except they don't have iron domes in and around the city and the coastal areas of America like Israel does. That's the difference. How would America defend against the missiles launched? They would have a lot of trouble. They would get some of them. The fact of the matter is Iran has very few allies. Correct. And the ones they have don't seem to want to do much, like Russia and China. Iran can't hurt the USA. Oh, they can. It's rather suicidal for them, but oh, they can. America never, yeah, America could really severely punish Iran, and I believe that will happen. That's in the prophecy of Jeremiah in chapter 49, verse 34, but it's called Elam back then. The word Iran, I think, might appear in the Bible once or twice, but it's normally called Elam or Persia. So, yeah, it's going to get devastated. And it's a likely assumption America is going to be in on it, along with Israel and probably one or two or three more countries or something. Now, Iran's going to do something stupid to cause America and Israel to pour their wrath down on them. Okay? That's what I'm trying to tell you. You're dealing with people that belong in a psychiatric hospital for the criminally insane, like child serial killers. That's what you're dealing with Iran. Okay? And the Houthis. And they're nuts. Really, they're out of their minds. Okay? And you got to understand that. And you've got to understand that they're completely capable of acting illogically. And I expect they will. But I also expect their first move is going to be to try to close the Straits of Hormuz and see where that gets them. Now we'll see if today or tomorrow or whenever the Supreme Council of Iran, which is run by Khomeini, the Ayatollah, approves the parliament's approval of closing the Straits of Hormuz. I suspect they will, and then it'll start. And then we'll watch, and I'll keep you updated as to what America's doing in the Middle East, what the other Middle East countries are doing, what Israel's doing, and how it's going. I'll keep you updated. But they can rock the world easily by shutting the Straits of Hormuz. Don't give it a second thought. Oil hitting $200 to $300 a barrel will rock the world severely. Severely. People won't be able to afford to go to work. All consumer goods are going to go up in price because they all move with fuel. Either aircraft, ships, trains, or trucks. Everything. Everything. So it's going to go up a little bit for the airplane, it'll go up a little bit for the boat, go up a little bit for the truck. It goes up. Home heating oil will go up. Cost of electricity will go up. It's going to be serious, believe me. And Trump will use it to get the coalition together. And for some days it'll go on. Maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 10. I don't know how long Trump will let it brew. Coalition might be 20 people, 30 countries, 20 countries. I don't know. It's thought that Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia will join the coalition when stuff like this goes down. They don't have a whole ton of military equipment, but when you put them all together, they got quite a bit. And they understand Iran, not like countries in Europe and other parts of the world. They understand Iran. And their understanding of Iran is going to tell them you have to take an iron hand to them and beat them into the ground. They understand that. Trump's not all that clear on that yet. But when that happens, they will pound Iran into the ground. Because they know if they don't, Iran will make a comeback and get them. Trump doesn't quite understand all how the Middle East works yet, but he's getting there. Trump's balancing politics and a good image with dealing with psychotic killers in Iran and the Houthis and Iraq. Turkey got put on alert. They were afraid Iran might attack Turkey because Turkey has NATO bases that America uses. I think America might even have a base in Turkey. So Turkey even went on alert. All the American bases in the area went on alert. I think the whole world, maybe. They're worried about it. I mean, Iran may do that. I don't think that's the best move right now. I think the best move is to close the Straits of Hormuz. Not that it'll help them, but I think that's how they will interpret what is their best move. I should have phrased it that way. So please hit the thumbs up. That's not a lot to ask. It takes 2 seconds, okay? A lot of hard work goes into these broadcasts. If you want to make sure you get when things start, the eggs start hitting the fan, I do emergency live streams. I could do several a day. So you might want to subscribe to know about those. Because I live in the Middle East. I'm in Israel. I'm in the Galilee. Been here many years. Know how it works. And you're going to get a lot of news from me that's coming out of social media, from Iran, from Arab countries, so they're going to be coming in from Farsi language, Arabic language, and Hebrew, plus English. And I post on Telegram avidly. If you want to join my Telegram, you need to get the app, I think, Telegram Messenger. You might be able to do it with your browser, I'm not sure. My email address is on the lowest line down in the description box. It's israelgiving7@gmail.com. Israelgiving, one word, with the number 7@gmail.com. Just write me a note and say you want the Telegram link, and I'll send you the invite link, and you can join it. Telegram's free. The app is free. It's all free. And there you have it. So I will keep you updated. Please pray for me and my wife for peace, safety, protection, joy. Pray for healing of our bodies, which is needed. Pray for our finances. Pray for more insights and to Bible prophecy from the Lord, and better teaching on the Bible. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for our birds and dogs that are all rescues, that they be happy, healthy, whole, and safe. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I'm out, and I hope you got something out of this. Thanks.